I've lived in this house for 15 years. It's not a big house, nor is it particularly special, but it's mine. My little patch of stability in an unstable world. The only part of the house I don't use much is the basement. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just damp, cold, and a little claustrophobic, more utility space than anything. A concrete floor, unfinished walls, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. That's where I keep the old boxes of stuff I can't seem to part with, childhood toys, photo albums, tax records. And where I don't go unless I absolutely have to. Last week, I had to. The bulb in the laundry room blew, and the spare bulbs were down there in a box marked miscellaneous. I stood at the top of the basement stairs with my phone flashlight in hand. The switch for the basement light was at the bottom, a quirk of whoever built the place. I descended slowly, each step groaning under my weight. The air was colder than usual. The musty smell that always lingered down there seemed sharper, almost metallic. I clicked on the flashlight and swept it across the room. Shadows stretched and twisted along the walls like they were trying to escape. I went straight for the box, trying not to let my imagination get the better of me. But then I heard it. A whisper. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A dry, raspy voice like dead leaves scraping over pavement. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The sound came again, louder this time, clearer. It wasn't just a noise, it was a word. Stay. I whipped around, the flashlight beam trembling as it cut through the dark. There was no one there. The only things in the basement were the same old boxes and the worn-out workbench in the corner. My logical brain told me it was nothing. Maybe the wind, maybe an old pipe settling in the cold. I forced myself to turn back to the box, grab the bulbs, and bolted up the stairs without looking back. For the next few days, I convinced myself it was all in my head. Stress, lack of sleep, overactive imagination. Until I heard it again. This time, I wasn't even in the basement. I was lying in bed, drifting off, when I heard that same raspy voice echo faintly through the floorboards. Come back. I sat up, heart pounding. I wanted to ignore it, to write it off as a dream or a trick of my ears. But something deep in my gut told me otherwise. The whispers didn't stop. Every night, they grew louder, more insistent. They called my name now, dragging it out in a slow, menacing hiss. I stopped sleeping. I stopped going down there. But the basement didn't stop coming to me. Then, last night, the whispers became a voice. Clear, deliberate, and impossibly close. You can't ignore me forever. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I stayed up until dawn, clutching a kitchen knife and staring at the basement door. Tonight, I'm going down there. I don't know what I'll find, but I can't live like this anymore. The whispers have turned into pounding, and the floor above the basement feels like it's trembling beneath my feet. If I don't come back, tell them not to open the basement door. Whatever's down there doesn't want to stay hidden anymore. I couldn't take the whispers anymore. The pounding. The scratching. It wasn't just a feeling of dread now, it was as if the basement itself had come alive, demanding to be acknowledged. Armed with my phone flashlight and the same kitchen knife I'd clutched all night, I descended the stairs again. The air grew colder with every step, wrapping around me like icy hands. As I reached the bottom, the whispers stopped. The silence was worse. End quote, who and hashtag 039, there, end quote, my voice trembled, barely above a whisper itself. The response wasn't immediate, but I felt it before I heard it. A shift in the air, like something moving unseen. Then came the voice, clearer than ever. Help me. The sound didn't come from the far corner of the basement like I expected, it was closer, right behind me. I spun around, the flashlight beam shaking in my hand, but there was no one there. Just empty air. Then I saw it. The wall near the workbench wasn't as solid as it seemed. The seams between the cinder blocks looked off. A faint crack ran through the mortar, just wide enough to notice if you were looking closely. I stepped closer, my heart racing. The whispers came again, louder this time, urgent. Here. Please. I don't know what compelled me to do it, but I dropped the flashlight and knife, grabbed the hammer from the workbench, and started swinging at the wall. The sound of cracking stone echoed through the basement, mixing with the whispers. It didn't take long before a section of the wall crumbled, revealing a dark, narrow space beyond. The smell hit me first. Rot. Decay. Death. I gagged, stumbling back, but the whispers didn't stop. They grew louder, a cacophony of pain and desperation. I forced myself to shine the flashlight into the hole, and that's when I saw her. A skeleton, curled up on the ground, still wrapped in the tattered remnants of a dress. Her bony fingers were outstretched, as if clawing at the wall in her final moments. Something shiny caught my eye, a ring on her left hand. I staggered back, my mind racing. Who was she? How long had she been here? And why? The whispers had stopped, replaced by a suffocating silence. I couldn't take my eyes off the skeleton, even as my mind screamed at me to run. Then I saw the envelope, brittle and yellowed with age, tucked under the skeleton's hand. With trembling fingers, I reached for it and pulled it free. Inside was a note, written in shaky handwriting. End quote, "My name is Lillian. If you find this, please tell someone what he did to me. My husband, Mark, trapped me here. I was going to leave him, and he couldn't stand it. He said if I couldn't be his, I wouldn't be anyone's. Please don't let him get away with this. Please." End quote. My stomach churned. Mark. The name of the previous owner. I remembered it from the papers when I bought the house. I scrambled back up the stairs, clutching the note like it was my lifeline. Once upstairs, I searched the name Mark Hensley and missing wife. The results chilled me to my core. Lillian Hensley had been reported missing 12 years ago. Mark claimed she left him, took off without a trace. He sold the house shortly after her disappearance and vanished himself. No one ever suspected him. Until now. My hands shook as I dialed the police. I told them everything, showed them the note, led them to the basement. They took it seriously, too much evidence to ignore. They told me they'd open an investigation, try to track Mark down. But as the officers left, I could still feel the basement's coldness clinging to me. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. There were no whispers, no pounding, no scratching. The house was silent, but not empty. I felt her presence, not as a threat, but as a lingering sadness. Weeks later, the police called. They found Mark. He'd been living under a different name in another state. When confronted with the evidence, he confessed to everything. The house is quiet now. Lillian's whispers are gone. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the kitchen or lying in bed, I feel a warmth, like a hand on my shoulder. I think it's her way of saying thank you. But I still won't go into the basement. Not ever again.
Like, subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell icon to never miss a scare.